Some cities are built with bricks and concrete, but a few rare ones are built with dreams. Today, we're traveling to the world's most breathtaking capital cities, where every sunrise tells a story, every street hides a secret, and every moment feels like stepping into a living postcard. Let's begin our journey. Wellington, Paris, France, the city where dreams grow wings. When Arin, the old cartographer, first told Mira that some cities breathe like living beings, she didn't understand. But the moment she stepped off the train at Gare du Nord, Paris exhaled. Soft, warm, welcoming. And she felt it instantly. The air carried a fragrance she had never encountered before. Freshly baked croissants, roasted coffee, and something else. Something soft and romantic, like the whisper of a forgotten love letter. A night that glowed like a second moon. Her first evening began by the Seine River, where lanterns reflected on the water like tiny floating galaxies. A street guitarist played a melody so gentle it seemed to brush the dust off her tired heart. She leaned on the stone railing, watching the Eiffel Tower sparkle. It didn't shine, it danced. Every twinkle was a heartbeat, a promise, a memory waiting to be made. Beside her, an elderly painter with paint-stained fingers murmured, "Paris doesn't show you beauty, she teaches you how to feel it." Then he continued painting the glowing tower, his canvas shimmering with emotion instead of accuracy. Morning in Montmartre. The next morning, Mira climbed the winding streets of Montmartre, the hill of artists, poets, and dreamers. Cafes lined the streets like old friends sharing stories. She stopped at a tiny cafe where the waiter had a smile that suggested he'd served famous artists without ever bragging about it. As she sipped her café crème, she heard laughter from the square. Painters filled their canvases with bold splashes of color. A woman in a red dress posed, her scarf fluttering like a flame in the wind. A painter waved Mira over. "Sit," he said. "Let Paris draw you." He sketched her not as she looked, but as she felt in that moment, hopeful, alive, and infinitely curious. The hidden garden of wishes. Later, Mira wandered into a hidden courtyard behind an ivy-covered door. There she found a secret garden glowing with wild lavender. A fountain trickled like a soft lullaby. A little girl played nearby and told her, "If you make a wish in Paris and whisper it to the wind, the city keeps it safe." So Mira closed her eyes and wished, not for wealth, not for fame, but to always find places that touched her soul the way Paris did. A sunset that felt like a promise. On her last evening, Mira stood on the Pont Alexandre III, the most ornate bridge in the city. The sky turned shades of caramel and rose. Golden statues shone like guardians watching over the city. And as the Eiffel Tower lit up once again, Mira felt the truth rising in her chest. Paris isn't just beautiful. Paris makes you beautiful. Makes your thoughts softer, your heart lighter, your dreams louder. The city breathed again, and this time, she breathed with it. To Tokyo, Japan, the city where time has a soul. The moment Mira arrived in Tokyo, she felt the city's pulse, steady, rhythmic, alive. It was unlike anything she had ever known. If Paris was a dream painted in soft colors, Tokyo was a heartbeat made of neon, cherry blossoms, and centuries of wisdom. Sakura snowfall. Her first morning began beneath a tunnel of cherry blossoms in Ueno Park. Pink petals drifted down like soft snow, landing on her hair, her clothes, her eyelashes. Children laughed. Couples took photos. Elderly men played chess under trees older than empires. A gentle old woman selling dango smiled and said, "Cherry blossoms bloom briefly to remind us. Beauty is meant to be cherished, not owned." Mira stood still, letting the pink snow kiss her cheeks, feeling time slow down for the first time in years. The river of speed. Suddenly, whoosh, a bullet train thundered past the park's edge, gliding so fast it seemed to slice the air itself. Yet it made no chaotic noise. It moved with quiet confidence, as though even speed bowed respectfully to tradition here. Tokyo was full of such contradictions. Ancient temples beside glass skyscrapers, robot cafes next to wooden shrines, silence in the heart of a roaring metropolis. Time didn't clash here. It collaborated, shadows and lanterns in Asakusa. Later, Mira wandered through Asakusa, where the air smelled of incense and history. Red lanterns swayed gently above her as if whispering old stories. She stepped through the massive Kaminarimon gate, its giant lantern towering above like a guardian spirit. The path beyond led to Sensoji Temple, glowing gold under the afternoon sun. A monk sweeping the temple steps paused and said, "People think Tokyo is crowded, but if your heart is quiet, you will always find silence." Mira bowed respectfully, understanding exactly what he meant. Where neon lights become stars, night fell, and Tokyo transformed. Shibuya Crossing exploded into color and energy. Hundreds of people crossed at once, moving like a river of humanity. Screens flashed, billboards glowed. The city became a constellation of neon stars, and yet Mira felt strangely calm in the middle of it all, as if Tokyo's chaos had rhythm, like a symphony only the city could conduct. A stranger with bright blue hair and headphones winked at her and said, "Don't try to understand Tokyo, feel it." She laughed because that was exactly what she had been doing. The bowl that held a story hungry, Mira slipped into a tiny ramen shop tucked between two modern towers. Only 6 seats. A single chef, steam rising like ghosts of ancient recipes. He served her a simple bowl of ramen, yet the first spoonful tasted like warmth, memory, and home. Without looking up, he said, "Every flavor has a story. Tokyo has millions." Mira finished the last drop, feeling nourished not just in body but in spirit. A city that sees you. On her final night, she rode to the top of Tokyo Tower. Below her, the city stretched endlessly, a glowing sea of lights pulsing with life. She realized then that Tokyo wasn't just modern or historic. It wasn't just fast or peaceful. It wasn't just beautiful. Tokyo was alive, and somehow it saw her. Standing above the city, Mira felt the deep truth. In Tokyo, time isn't measured in hours. It's measured in moments that stay with you forever. 3. Cape Town, South Africa. The city, sculpted by the hands of nature. When Mira arrived in Cape Town, she didn't feel like she was entering a city. She felt as if she were stepping into a painting crafted by the earth itself. The air was crisp, salty, and warm all at once. Seagulls called overhead, the waves crashed against ancient cliffs, and the horizon glowed like molten gold. The giant that touches the sky. Her first vision of Cape Town was the towering silhouette of Table Mountain, flat, majestic, ancient. It rose from the earth like a guardian carved from stone. A local guide with kind eyes told her, "She's more than a mountain, she's our mother. She watches over us." And Mira believed him, because standing at its base she felt small, not in a frightening way, but in a way that reminded her of how vast and beautiful the world could be. 2 oceans, 1 voice. Cape Town stood where the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean met, 2 giants of water whispering their stories to the shore. At Cape Point, Mira watched the waves crash violently, then retreat like they were dancing to an ancient rhythm. The wind whipped through her hair, tasting of adventure. An elderly fisherman with silver hair said, "These waters are storytellers. They carry tales from every shore they touch." He handed her a small seashell. "Listen," he said, and when she held it to her ear, she could swear she heard the ocean breathing. The little guardians of Boulder's Beach. Next, she visited Boulder's Beach, where penguins waddled around like tiny gentlemen in black and white tuxedos. One penguin marched right up to her feet, tilted its head, and studied her curiously. Mira laughed as a young girl nearby giggled. "They're the friendliest locals you'll ever meet." The penguins squawked, flapped, and hopped into the shimmering blue water, reminding Mira that magic doesn't always belong in fairy tales. Sometimes it lives on a sunny beach in South Africa. A sunset painted by the spirits. As evening settled, Mira made her way to Signal Hill for the sunset. The sky shifted through a palette of colors: amber, rose, violet, deep indigo, each one more breathtaking than the last. A group of locals sat nearby, drumming softly as the sun dipped below the ocean. One of them smiled and said, "In Cape Town, the sun doesn't set, it celebrates." And Mira felt it. The warmth, the rhythm, the unity of people and nature moving together. The night that sang its own song. When darkness finally arrived, Cape Town didn't sleep. Lanterns glowed in the waterfront markets. Musicians played soulful tunes, and the aroma of grilled seafood drifted through the air. Mira wandered along the V&A waterfront, where the city lights shimmered on the surface of the harbor like dancing pearls. A street performer strummed a guitar and sang in Xhosa, his voice rich and full of emotion. When he finished, he bowed slightly and said, "Cape Town is not a place you see. It is a place you feel, a city that lives in the heart." On her final morning, Mira climbed Table Mountain by cable car. When she reached the top, the world unfolded beneath her. The city, the oceans, the endless sky. And in that moment she understood. Cape Town wasn't shaped by people. It was shaped by time, wind, waves, and wonder. A masterpiece sculpted by nature itself. She closed her eyes and felt the breeze brush her cheeks. A farewell kiss from Africa. Phase 4. Canberra, Australia. The city crafted by calm and purpose. Canberra was different from every city Mira had visited so far. It didn't roar like Tokyo. It didn't whisper like Paris. And it didn't sing like Cape Town. Canberra breathed, deeply, quietly, intentionally. When she arrived, the air smelled fresh, as if the city had washed itself in eucalyptus and sunlight. A city designed, not discovered. Unlike ancient capitals born from centuries of chaos and conquest, Canberra was designed, crafted with care, like a perfect painting placed gently on a canvas of rolling hills. From above, the city looked like a puzzle of symmetry and green spaces. Roads curved like brushstrokes. Lakes shimmered like mirrors. A driver who picked her up from the station said with a relaxed smile, "Some cities are accidents. Canberra is a choice." And Mira felt that every path, every park, every view seemed placed with purpose. The lake that holds the sky. Her first stop was Lake Burley Griffin, a vast body of water so still it reflected the clouds like glass. Cyclists glided by. Kayaks sliced gently across the surface. Children laughed as swans drifted elegantly along the shore. Mira sat on the grassy banks, dipping her fingers into the cool water. It felt like touching the sky itself. A jogger paused beside her and said, "This lake is our heart. It keeps us calm." And she understood why. The lake didn't just reflect the city. It seemed to anchor it. Stories held in stone. Later, she visited the National Museum and then the Australian War Memorial, two places filled not with noise, but with quiet truth. In the memorial's courtyard, poppies overflowed from the walls, bright red petals of memory. A guide standing nearby whispered, "Every capital has a story. Ours remembers its heroes and its mistakes." Mira walked through the hallways slowly, feeling the weight of history not as a burden, but as something sacred, a rue by the roadside. What surprised Mira most was how wildlife lived beside the city, as if nature and humans had signed a peace treaty long ago. While walking near the outskirts, she saw a lone kangaroo standing in a field, its ears perked, its eyes gentle. It watched her for a moment, still and curious, before hopping away into the golden grass. A passing local chuckled, "Here, you're more likely to meet a kangaroo than a traffic jam." And Mira laughed, loving the quiet honesty of it. A sunset of unspoken peace. As evening fell, she climbed Mount Ainslie, a hill that offered the most breathtaking view of the city. Canberra stretched before her, a perfect blend of blue lakes, green parks, white monuments, all glowing in the soft color of sunset. The sky painted itself in shades of peach, pink, and amber. The world seemed to slow down, almost to a stop. A young couple sitting nearby said, "Canberra doesn't overwhelm you, it holds you." And Mira felt that deeply. The calm wrapped around her like a warm, reassuring blanket. a night written in stillness. That night, she walked along the quiet streets. No crowds, no chaos, no rush, just wide roads, soft lights, and the gentle hum of a city that preferred peace over noise. She realized then, Canberra wasn't trying to impress her. It was inviting her to breathe. The city didn't demand attention. It earned affection. Beauty and simplicity. On her final morning, Mira sat by the lake again, watching the sun rise gently behind the distant hills. She understood something profound. Not all beauty shouts, some beauty whispers, and those whispers stay with you the longest. Canberra had shown her the quiet side of wonder, the beauty of balance, intention, and peace. As she boarded her train, she felt lighter, calmer, as if the city had pressed reset on her soul. PM5, Wellington, New Zealand. The wind carved wonder. From the moment Mira landed in Wellington, she felt it. The wind, not a breeze, not a gentle whisper. No, Wellington's wind had personality. It sang, it danced, it teased, it wrapped itself around her like an old friend saying, "Welcome, let me show you something magical. The city that breathes with the wind." Wellington didn't just sit peacefully between hills and ocean. It belonged to them. Green hills rose like protective giants on one side, a sparkling harbor spread wide on the other, and in the middle stood Wellington, colorful, artistic, lively. A local woman laughed as the wind tugged playfully at Mira's hair and said, "Our wind doesn't blow, it performs," and Mira believed her. Where coffee is an art form. Her first stop was on Cuba Street, a vibrant, free-spirited stretch filled with cafes, vintage shops, musicians and colors that looked like they had been painted by joy itself. She ducked into a small cafe where a barista with a curly mustache and tattooed arms handed her a cappuccino topped with a heart made of foam. "You're new here," he grinned. "Wellington can taste you before it knows you." She laughed, sipping the coffee, bold, warm, flavorful, the kind that felt like waking up from a long sleep. A chalkboard on the wall read, "In Wellington, even the coffee has character." And Mira could taste the truth. A harbor that tells stories. Down by the Wellington waterfront, she walked along the boardwalk as artists sketched, joggers zipped past, and boats glided across the surface like ink strokes on blue paper. The city shimmered under the sunlight, modern, clean, yet deeply human in its simplicity. She stopped at a sculpture shaped like a giant metal half-ring. A man sitting nearby playing a Maori flute looked up and said, "Our harbor holds the stories of our ancestors. It remembers before we do." His music drifted over the water like a blessing. The hill that watches over the city. Next, she took the rickety red Wellington cable car up to Kelburn. As the car climbed the hillside, the entire city revealed itself. A mosaic of colorful houses clinging to slopes, boats sparkling below, the wind pushing clouds across the blue sky like a painter moving brush strokes. At the top, the botanic garden welcomed her with winding paths, rare flowers and quiet corners where the world felt blissfully far away. A child picked up a leaf and said, "The wind brings presents from the sky." Mira smiled, pocketing her own leaf, a souvenir from the city of wind. A city that loves its own quirks. Evening approached, and Wellington didn't slow down. It warmed up. Street performers played guitars, restaurants filled with laughter. The air smelled of garlic, seafood, and adventure. In a tiny bookstore on Willis Street, an old man reading behind the counter looked up and said, "Wellington isn't perfect, that's the best part. She's quirky, like a poem that refuses to rhyme." Mira laughed because she could feel it. Wellington wasn't trying to impress her. It was simply being itself. And that was charming in a way no perfection ever could be. The night the wind told a secret. At night, Mira climbed up Mount Victoria Lookout. From there, she saw the whole city glowing softly beneath the stars. The wind rushed past her, brushing her cheeks like a familiar hand. It whispered through the trees, across the hills, over the water. And in its voice, Mira heard something she couldn't quite explain. a message, a feeling, a quiet truth. Beauty doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be alive. Wellington, the small, windy capital, felt more alive than cities 10 times its size. A farewell wrapped in wind. On her final morning, she walked the waterfront again. A gust of wind tugged at her scarf, almost mischievously. A passerby chuckled. "If the wind takes something from you, Wellington is trying to keep you." Mira smiled as her scarf fluttered like a flag behind her. The city didn't want her to leave, and she didn't really want to go. As she boarded her ferry, the wind brushed her one last time. A gentle, playful goodbye, and Mira felt it deep inside. Wellington wasn't just shaped by the wind, it was defined by it. A city carved by nature, colored by creativity, and warmed by the kindness of its people. A small capital with a huge heart.